Good evening. You're listening live to the Xtreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob. I have alongside me from the great Midwest the incomparable RDV, and of course, the young 20-something dude, Professor Pixel. And gentlemen, tonight we're talking about Blue's 1979 Jackie Chan film, Cooks and Kung Fu, where I'd forgotten how fun when I would watch Kung Fu Theater from WTOG Channel 403, as far as the eye could see from Tampa, St. Pete back in the 80s day, since we're an 80s based station here, that we would see movies like this. I had go, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but the sounds and some excuse to have action sequences and fighting and Kung Fu stuff. And like I've said to you, RDV, as much as we've covered a lot of canon classics and different types of martial arts, there's something compelling when we talk about in terms of boxing. Styles make fights, right? Not 110-pound girls beating up 200-pound guys ninja style one at a time. Damn it, we're talking about, whether it's rice style versus Asian noodle versus this, that, whatever. Finally, we get a brief overview of a movie that says, you know what, there's different styles that the chefs who were with the emperor learned their own style of Kung Fu. You know what? I get that in the first minute or two. I'm hooked. Thought this was a very entertaining, stupid, fun movie. This is when you think of a Jackie Chan type of movie, that is one that you get. Again, that's early on before he blew up. Fun movie to watch. It's currently playing here, at least in the United States, on Tubi TV free. What's your initial take, RDV, before we go to the young kid who says, don't worry?
When I first started watching this, it starts off like, this is not normal. But I'm thinking about it's early Jackie Chan, so it's just normal. It starts off, like I said, like very different from most of the ones we've covered here. And I was like, you know what? Because we were talking about like what movie do we want to cover this Sunday, and I gave you guys a list, and I was going through it, and I finally got this one. It's like the fourth or fifth one, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I've never seen it before, but now I have to keep watching it. It's just, I don't know what it is. There's something unique about this film, and
it has a hook.
It was just the fact that I was hungry.
Yeah,
but like I said, it is fun. It is entertaining. Like I said, it starts off like as a comedy, and then it goes into very serious towards the end, kind of like Fearless Hyena. So
yeah, it's interesting that you compared it to that too. That's not something I did. I looked at it as being kind of silly and didn't take it serious, but it is kind of set up that way where you've got the same kind of character, lazy guy that learns. Of course, you have to learn from a mentor, which I always love that shit. And
Yes.
of course, the particular styles here of cooking, because of the great variety in the different subcultures over there in Chinese Kung Fu.
And
it's fun. It's a good hook, like you said.
It's worth noting that because I found this on Tubi. That's where I watched it, and that's where most of you guys are probably watching it. Although I think it is available over on Amazon, the rent or buy. But
Probably.
Yeah, but this is Jackie Chen, not Chan this time. So this is before he started doing the English, himself.
No.
This
is not Jackie Chan at all.
I
have looked. I've done a score. This is a different person altogether.
No, you mean it's Bruce Lei like that?
No, this is
an imposter.
This is Jackie Chan, but he used to call before he used to come out Jackie Chen.
Check the IMDb. They are two different people. Jackie Chan was in pretty much 3 notable films, and his career ended in 1989.
No,
Jackie Chan. His IMDb has him listed in so many things. Cannonball Run 2 in 1984, which was before this movie. This is a different person.
After that movie.
This isn't Jackie Chan.
This is Jackie Chan.
It's not Jackie Chan.
Change his name.
Uh-oh. Our first controversy here on the Xtreme Movie Show. I'm going to sit back and watch the two guys go out while I Google Foo it.
Jackie Chan and Jackie Chan are the same person.
They are not.
He changed his name to be more recognized when he moved.
He would be... It doesn't matter if he changed his name; he'd still be listed. Because he's listed as Jackie Chan in 1978 on his IMDb in Spiritual Kung Fu, which is years before this movie. So, are you saying that at the same time, so 1983, which is just a couple years before of Cooks and Kung Fu, that he was going by Chan in one movie and Chen in this movie?
Yes,
that can't happen.
Because
I'm telling you, look up Jackie Chan right now, and you're going to have to go to the alternate IMDb, because obviously with the 1-letter difference, they're going to try to autocorrect it to Jackie Chan. But it isn't Jackie Chan. I went looking all throughout while watching this movie, because I was like, he looks like him in some angles, but then his face like completely changes. Oh, well, there's a reason. He's not him.
Interesting. I didn't even catch that. Oh my goodness. It's quite possible, because I know with Bruce Lee in the 70s that they've done that with other actors, and with the overdub thing, it's a little bit suspect, if you will, because we talked about how his English was suspect when he came to the States to make a biggie. He's still having issues and all that. We even see that with some of his earlier films. But my goodness, what do we make of this, guys?
As far as I've ever known, they've always been the same person, because they would do this back in the day. Other people, they would when they started getting popular, going to Americanize stuff, they would change their name to Chan.
But he was listed as Chan he's credited as Jackie Chan in the 70s through the 80s on his IMDb. I just can't believe that for 30 some odd movies that were releasing at the same time, he would go by Chen for some of them and switch in between. Because
we also know that people do make mistakes online as far as crediting stuff.
I can agree with that, but this is 31 acting credits for Jackie Chan, and he's also listed as a stunts coordinator on other films as well. 1989 is the last project he worked on, and that was as an action coordinator, not an actor.
Interesting. Well, histrionics aside when it comes to that, because these things do happen, especially the farther back we go with people's names, because most names aren't real anyway, definitely not heights and weights and all that. As far as the movie goes, you haven't been on a lot of the martial arts films that we've covered. What was your initial opinion about it? Because you probably haven't seen a lot of these films, correct?
I've seen a few, and yeah, this one was better than High Kick Girl 2. That I reviewed with Venkman last year. I was not really a fan.
You don't like this movie?
No, I didn't.
You're not a fan because
Jackie Chan thing aside, that's fine. I got quickly over the wax on, wax off content after the first 10 times they tried to make it a thing by saying food kung fu. You might as well call it kung food and go full camp, because this was I wasn't enjoying it. It was basically giving them a chance to flip around, and the story is at the end, mother, father, I have avenged you. And it sounds like that's a fine line for most of them, but it wasn't like that. It was something worse that I can't even recall at the moment. You can finally rest. His whole life has been torn apart, but the movie's over because he's killed the guy after slapping him around for 5 minutes and then twisting his neck. I was not impressed.
Well, one thing you should know about this movie is not meant to be show their acting skills. It's more to show their martial arts skills. That's why it's called kung fu.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That's why I said
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine with mostly based on action. That's okay. I was rolling my eyes though because they kept trying to make it silly.
See,
they wanted it to be silly.
I disagree, and here's why. So, one of the things when we try to cover some of these martial arts films, particularly not necessarily action, but martial arts, is we talk about the different styles and everything. One of the major issues that we have when we get a lot of people from all over the place, including the Philippines, and the Far East, and all that, India, and all that, when we do some of these types of films, chime in, and we've had some interesting comments here on the Xtreme Movie Show and chat about why things are popular or not. And when you go to dub it it's really, really hard to take it seriously or done well, even if it's, say, a serious film from A to B. This is a film that I agree with you that it starts off, whether it's Jackie Chan or Chen or who gives a rat's ass, honestly, right now. But the bottom line is it seems like it's him in the style, and you could call it a cheap ripoff. What's solid about it is when you compare it to the other films that are out there, is this starts off kind of goofy. It has a unique hook where you see all the different styles early on, him working on it with all the food out there. So you're going, okay, this is going to be kind of silly, goofy. So Jackie Chan, maybe we think it's Jackie Chan. If we don't know, as an American audience, we've been duped, because that does happen. That's why they do it. So even if it's a second-rate B film by their standards in the 70s when this came out, the point is we see the evil bad dude where you don't really see his face, but he's going around killing all these other cooks, which sounds stupid. But it really is a revenge movie where, here's the thing, those fights at the beginning, yeah, they're dumb, they're stupid. And I don't necessarily like the comedy aspect of Jackie Chan. I've mentioned that here many times, it's no secret, but I do appreciate the physicality of what he does. And we've talked about certain scenes, but really, the thing that surprised me the most about this movie, where I disagree with you the most, is that as the film goes on, the fights get better, and it actually gets more serious into the buildup. I was not expecting that. Typically, that does not happen. This is not a Sammy Young kind of goofy thing where it's just, whatever, slapstick all the way through or something like that, where it's kind of dumbed down or retarded. If it was an 80s action film that they came over here and did, I got to give this movie a little bit of credit, because if you checked into it at the beginning going, yeah, this is dumb, this is stupid, and then later on you're like, wait a minute, they went away from it. I think the only thing that you would find subpar about it is the problem with the overdubbing, where they say certain things. Your "Don't worry, Goofy" kind of comment that you made earlier offline about your screen name right now. Those things do ruin it, because shit, it's turning into a really badass fight towards the end, and these guys are going at it, and yet at the beginning you think of all the goofy stuff and you're like, man, we've come a long way from here. And it's got the natural outdoor settings. It's not a lot of stuff going on. It's not a beautiful film, and that a lot of money's been spent on set pieces stuff. So it's pretty much balls to the wall, exactly what I think anybody would want watching this type of film.
Yeah,
You know what I think it is, Rob? I think how I felt watching this movie is how you feel watching John Wick movies, because at some point the fighting just gets silly to the point where they're slapping each other around, and if it was a real fight, there would be a shot.
Volume of opponents and guns.
No, because guns will be more final. but
that's the problem with John Wick is that it goes to guns. Here, again, you've got different styles, you've got different settings, different fights, different whatever. And like I said at the very beginning, the contrast kind of makes the fights, because if he's using the one technique early on, then he realizes, oh, wait a minute, noodle's not working, let me go to duck or whatever. You're like, okay, that kind of sounds kind of silly, but that's the point. You switch. It's like Rocky when he goes southpaw. That's how I looked at it. You were going to say something there, RDV?
Yeah, I was going to say, this is pretty much, if you watch Drunken Master, exact same thing. Jackie Chan does this in a lot of his movies. He has seven different styles he does.
Yeah.
You've seen this in shows like Kung Fu, the original one. They teach you different styles of Kung Fu. And obviously, everybody had their own style. And you see this movie, he's watching the other guys, the bad guys, studying their Kung Fu, and he adopts it and adds it to his own style and creates a brand new one. Like I said, I enjoy this stuff. Now, if you're sitting there, you're kind of bored already, and you're just tired of then going slow moving, bam, 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 bam. I can understand that, but like I said, I watched this movie when I was wide awake, so I wasn't hungover or tired or any of that stuff, so I wasn't cranky going into this. But I don't know if you are picks or not, but I do know that you were kind of jet lagged the past couple days.
You don't have to blame things for me not liking the movie that you like. I'm
just saying, because I've done that where I go to watch something and I've been so bored because I just and then like I said, I don't know. Now honestly, you have a weird taste when it comes to movies, okay? But anyway, getting through this movie, like I said, you probably would not like Jackie Chan in Fearless Hyena then.
Well, I'd be willing to give it a try. I'm willing to try anything. I just think that this film, I I can only be so distracted by the kung fu before I just realize that they don't care about whatever their story is trying to be anyway. It just, at the end, how it's delivered with the flashbacks and all of that. Oh, I put a little lead inside of the food that went ahead and chipped the tooth of the queen. And it's
That's good shit.
That was the bad
guy. And he wanted to kill him because he was jealous of all of them. He was banished, but I still want to kill you anyway. Okay.
He wasn't expecting to be Spanish along with them, though. That's the problem. Like, it was a guy who was jealous of someone else, of their work, and he wanted to bump him off so he could become the number one guy who's popular.
Even cooks have feelings.
Yes. You see, it's called, he tried to sabotage, and sabotage went a little bit too well, and it caused him
sabotaging.
Yes. But that's, like I said, if you're looking for like expert like story plots from like 1970s kung fu, you are watching the wrong genre.
I just think a story can be delivered better.
Oh sure, nowadays, go watch it.
When you have a movie that their entire concept is that your kung fu is based off of popular Chinese dishes, I think this movie is meant to be silly.
When you're making a kung fu movie, you don't give a shit about the story. You just want to fight and show off your fighting skills. That's what everybody wanted to be, the next Bruce Lee. That's all it was. They don't care about the story, dude.
Okay.
If you think Bruce Lee had good stories in these movies, no.
And really, again, kind of pointing back in the 70s, some martial arts, they exploded, especially here in the States. And, we've talked about going through, kind of starting this channel off with the whole idea of going, somewhat in order of action films that were out popular in the 70s, Chuck Norris films, Breaker, and getting into the hand-to-hand before they went to guns. Not only was blaxploitation really, really big in the 80s, and people would make knockoffs on them like Blackula, but they would put their own spin on politically what was going on at the time. So it may be dated by today's standards, but it had a certain sense of coolness to it. And we haven't even done like Foxy Brown or some other ones that are out there that are pretty cool and interesting, different types of cinema, from the black experience. When you have the karate one too, that whole experience, like RDV was kind of saying, is that, it's pretty loose, no matter what it is, it's, certain martial arts, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, huge, massive hit, very gorgeous to look at. Everyone was wild by it. To me, it's a bit of a crap film because I personally cannot stand wire work. I don't like people flying around like that, and it's silly and it's stupid.
But
that's more. But
how did you feel in this movie when they decided to entirely steal the Jaws theme?
I love that. Halfway through, I break that up.
Do. Okay.
It could. I understand that. You had a couple big studios over there in Asia, right? So the Golden Harvest, and this one was another one, and so most of them kind of did things their own way. This is obviously a very B film with the ripping off actors' names, Jackie Chan versus Chan, whatever, like Bruce Lee, Bruce Li. Those things happen, and honestly, we take a lot of ideas here in the United States from stuff overseas, and we put it in here. Maybe we're not as brazen about it, but of course, any pop so-called singer or rapper doesn't any sampling and all that.
So
I know
it was not uncommon for that to be in there. So that did not insult me. When I was a kid watching it, I probably didn't make the connection, but when I rewatched it, I went, "Oh, he ripped that damn thing off." And I think I heard this piece somewhere else too, maybe in a Western or something. So I understood that it was a cheap, low-budget film, but that's all I wanted from it. I didn't want it to be, the best film of the year, 1979 foreign film. I wanted the choreographed stuff. I wanted different styles. I wanted 3 or 4 good fights, which I think we got. The acting, I'm not going to say is great or whatever, but again, if you got 2 people, even if it's choreographed and they're going through stuff, I always talk about, and I don't know how it's better explained this, there's a timing that goes on when you're fighting. Most fighting, of course, especially the gun fu, is not realistic. We know this. We accept that, right? It's cool that we can see that actors have trained in how to fire guns in a snap, but it's not the same thing as what really happens. We know that with a kung fu movie, but we like seeing them where they do this, they practice one little thing. Maybe it's their footwork stuff. And then one guy gets hit. He turns around, sees the blood on his hand, looks at the guy and nods his head. Then they go into a different stance or something like that. That's just inherently, I think it's all in our genetics to go, okay, Now we're going around 2, motherfucker. Now it's the other guy's turn. Then they look at each other. Then there's something different. Then, okay, we might take the scene that we're in and we're doing it somewhere different. I don't care if it's the same damn fight. It's like all the fighting games that got really popular in the 80s and the 90s. All you had to do was change physically was the landscape or the style, and it's still interesting and creative because it's still human beings doing that. And even though they're pulling their punches, they're highly trained individuals. They're not the biggest guys in the world, certainly, but it's still that man on man or woman on woman or whatever you want to call it interaction that beats anything done by CGI or wire work or anything fake and completely phony a million times. Okay, it's kind of like people that have a hard on for musicals. You can say what you want about them. I'm an old school musical kind of guy. I think Gene Kelly's the only guy I really watch. And even though he could be walking down the streets of Paris and all of a sudden break out into a song and dance, chewing gum with little kids on a street corner or whatever, and that's choreographed, and he probably did it 50 million times, you can't tell me that the guy's not gifted, and there's not something hypnotic about watching his body in space moving with the kind of control that, years of dedication and practice do in many takes. That's the same stuff you get here, and that's what's compelling about it. Nobody gives a shit about the plot. Who cares? I mean, and so yeah, I could counter with, hey, everybody young today, their baseline is comic book movies and tons of really, really bad CGI. So everything else, of course, is going to stand out differently to it. I don't find people that aren't human compelling. It doesn't react to me. That's one of the reasons why I bow out and don't cover a lot of them and let you guys do that. But the physical stuff, absolutely. I think that's what RDV is trying to say.
Reading, and I said now reading up more about this. Pixel, I do apologize. This was a guy who was trying to copy Jackie Chan at the time. So
that's fine. No, I'm not accusing you of trying to mislead us. I was saying that it's just not Jackie Chan. We were all mistaken. Because he looks like it for a good part of this movie.
It was supposed to be. That's why his movie is like The Drunken Master, and it's also like not Fist of Fear, but the Fearless Hyena does the same thing, where he has to do the cooking styles, different things. There's Old Lady, Laughing Hyena, and like I said, they were also. I was looking on IMDb. It's called Tao Tai Gong in Cantonese. But
what movie did we watch with Sonny Chiba last year? Because that was far better than this.
That was Street Fighter, and same thing. This is it's basically the old school comedy. You have a lot of people who basically are just trying to copy other stars, other kung fu plays, things. You had this guy like when it comes to the old man who plays his grandpa here. I love that every single freaking martial arts movie in the 70s. The old man's not old. The old man is in his 30s, and he's doing. I love how they're doing the choreography. They're matching the fighting skills in here. That was awesome. Like the back flips, and I said it is very. Jackie Chan was really trying to copy Jackie Chan, in the sense he was trying to, when he gets hit by his uncle or by his grandfather, you watch Fearless Hyena, it's the same thing. And that was popular. That was a thing. But like I said, majority of these movies, even Sonny Chiba, they were all meant not to be taken seriously. The only thing that was serious about them was their kung fu styles. But,
and I'll go back to the TV show Kung Fu, where early on in the early 70s, when it really blew up with David Carradine in it, and even his brother, I think, is in some of the episodes, as Kane when he was younger in flashbacks. That was a very spiritual movie, and it dealt with a theme. It had nothing to do with the actual fight that Kane would be in each episode for the most part. And it dealt with philosophy, and physically it would be implemented through him. And I totally understand it and get it. And I think one of the compelling things is that as a show back in the 70s, the people that did not know martial arts here in the United States, the only people that for the most part did were either the immigrants that came over after, say, World War II, or say Korea or Vietnam, and they learned it over there. So the introduction to Americans in martial arts was kung fu for the most part, where you get the pacifist priest there, with the overdub, basically saying, okay, this is the dragon style known for blah blah blah, and this is the not grasshopper style, but the mantis, I think it was, and you see the guy going through with the styles, and those are all, I think, supposed to be legit. And so that's more of, I think, a serious treatment on the spirituality behind what it is, whereas this movie is devoid of all that, and for good reason. It's not meant to be high martial art work in that sense. I mean, this is a B movie. This is your A24 release, Pixel, for the way you think of A24 as the release studio.
And this guy, like I said, we said this was meant to be in the style of Jackie Chan ripoff, because Jackie Chan at the time was Hong Kong's biggest star. Because Bruce Lee had just passed away, I think it was. When did Bruce Lee die? It was in the 80s. He died before the 80s, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, it was before that.
Like 74 and 5? Mid-70s?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jackie Chan was rising up as the new #1 star there, especially with his different style, his comedy, and doing the serious stuff. Style, as we call it, stylized kung fu or ballet. And I love how Jim says, he's like, finally someone who agrees with me. That crap sucks. The Crouching Tiger hidden bullshit. I never cared for it. I like Michelle Yeoh, and but I don't care for the oil stuff either. It's like, no, I don't care for speeding up cameras either. They don't speed up. These guys are actually moving that fast in this, so I gotta give Jackie Chen, even though his original name is Yung-Chun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he does his damnedest to look like Jackie Chan. That's why when I saw this, I typed in Jackie Chan in Tubi, so this popped up. I was like, okay, this looks like it, because it's Jackie Chan when he's younger does not look like Jackie Chan from the 90s or even the late 80s. He really Americanized himself in the way style is. Versus
he loves that American money. I mean, green is green, no matter what culture you're from, right?
Yeah, but overall, this whole story is about the grandfather who's a guy who was a chef. He worked for the emperor. His assistant ended up putting a piece of lead in one of the clam sandwiches where he was going to give to there, and she broke her tooth. So she was going to kill him, but then his life was spared. So this guy was upset because that meant his life was ruined too. He couldn't get work anywhere else. So he went around and started basically killing people. At first, we don't find until the end of the movie, but he basically killed Jackie Chan's parents in this. He's a baby, so the grandfather quickly basically took him as a child, and they fled. That was 20 years ago, and this guy's been looking for him ever since. And he's very omnibus. He's got if you watch Mortal Kombat, he's like Raiden. He's got the hat on.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't see his face. He's old. He's basically going from cook to cook and killing them. I'm thinking, this is feudal Japan. Is there any security or cops or stuff? Probably not. They still have kings, I guess, but you think they, going from town to town, murdering people, you think there'd be someone to be able to try to stop him. But he does a cliche thing. He hires two rent-us assassins. Come.
Goons.
yes. Who basically go around and try to find out where the cook has been hiding all these years. It is like I said, it's kind of one of the weakest stories. At the very end, it's very, very much especially like Jackie Chan's movies and early Jackie Chan's, where he finally confronts the bad guy. He's getting his ass kicked. He starts changing up his style, but then his shirt gets ripped off. So then he's like, he's like basically like just flexing, showing off his muscles, and he goes against the man, the evil, and he decides to, I'm going to do this for my parents that you murdered, and you murdered my grandfather. And then he switches up tries his new technique out, the one was been secretly studying. He learned from the two goons. And yeah. I love it. Like the last 10 to 15 minutes of this movie is like the serious showdown in the.
It is. It totally changes its tone, man. It really does. That doesn't always work, but I think it did in this one.
Oh, like I said, I love it. It's like if you're a fan of like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, that's pretty much at the ends to the final battle. Fight.
Pixel, I'll bring this up too. I know all three of us have had our scheduling challenges over the past month or so, and we'll continue to do so outside of Father's Day, where we review Commando on a yearly basis because it's the best Father's Day movie of all time. We're overdue for doing our every other month or so James Bond review going in order because we just did For Your
Yes.
Eyes Only. As we found out in that movie, you know, like the ancient, I don't know if I thought he said Chinese or whatever he says, you know, before you seek revenge, first you must dig 2 graves. You always get some sort of goofy stuff in some of these movies, and to compare that to kind of like what Johnny I think's got here in chat about the Outlaws being a Korean version of Death Wish. Here's the thing about the Death Wish movies in the 80s. If you're not a Charles Bronson fan, and we certainly have not covered a lot of them, we did cover at least a couple of his films because he's that strong of an actor and presence on screen that is very non-comparable to today. But in the 80s, a lot of people did not like the Death Wish films. They felt that they were very exploitive, that they were lowbrow cinema, they were crap, they were B-level. Hey, canon classic maybe. But the bottom line is even though it's Charles Bronson, you go, oh, I would expect better from Charles Bronson. I want the whatever. Everybody fucking loved them because he did the right thing. And he's a bedwetting liberal that ends up getting a gun and learning how to use it. And then the other movies in the 80s, he's like in New York. He's in the hood, blasting perps. And all the kids, you know, with their ghetto blasters are like, yeah, right on, bro, and stuff. It gets a little, it gets insane, you know, but it's typical by 80 standards. But this movie here tonight that we're talking about is a lot like that as well, in that, you know, you just give the audience what they want, which is some really good fights in this and that. I don't, you seem to not, it's not that you don't like it. It seems like you're really shook by how bad this movie is. So we obviously have to do more martial arts films with you here so you can get more of a baseline.
Well,
I don't know. I think that's kind of interesting.
I gotta ask though, because we watched Sister Street Fighter earlier. What it was? I think that was one Sister Street Fighter with the chick.
Yeah, we did Sister Street Fighter because she was also in Street Fighter. Sister Street Fighter was not as good as Street Fighter, but this is currently just a little above High Kick Girl.
But where does this rank against those two movies? Because Sister Street Fighter had the Fred Flintstones army. Don't you remember?
Yes, but still, that was still better than this.
Okay. Final thoughts, Pixel?
It's not for me.
I gotta ask though.
Okay.
Can I ask real quickly? What about Sister Street Fighter do you like that they don't do in this movie?
I mean, it's been a year and a half since I've seen that movie. I just know overall I enjoyed it more.
Or is it because it's a girl? You like watching a girl kick ass?
No, because she actually was more impressive in, I believe, Street Fighter 3 or whatever it was that we were watching.
Well, just for you, I think we'll have to go return to Sonny Chiba movies next week.
Well,
yeah.
We'll see how it goes, because a part of what we do here on Xtreme Movie Show is let everybody know, at least stateside, on what we're watching, where it's available, like say on Tubi. Tubi is a nice selection for freebies out there and a few others, but sometimes we seek out certain ones too, like The Outlaw sounds kind of interesting, or even New York Ninja. I know there's a lot of summer films we're going to be talking about on Tuesday night.
Yeah, Amazon Prime has a bunch. I don't know if they're actually only available on Prime or if they're available to watch with commercials. If you don't have a Prime membership, but
yeah, and that's where Freebie is getting a lot of their stuff, because when we did this last year, there was a ton of them. We found almost everything there. It seemed like there were a lot of Golden Harvest films.
Go through Roku. I'm sure you can find free Roku movies like this. But Tubi has been the #1 source for a lot of the 70s kung fu martial arts movies. There's a lot on there that I think are far worse than this that we'll have to Pixel watch. Not to make them suffer, just to show how great this movie is compared to the other ones.
Well, and it's relative. I agree, but like I'll mention this for everybody involved, because it's not something, you know, the last martial arts movie we technically did. Technically, the guy wasn't in there that lot; it was somebody else. But surprisingly, it was done very good, even though it was kind of odd and weird. And that was Chuck Norris as the bad guy in Slaughter in San Francisco. Not a good film, but there's something compelling about watching it. I don't know how to do it, even with horrible overdubbing. We're like, what the fuck? But it's one of those things where, like with martial arts, you just got to go see it. You know what I mean? And in the 70s, everybody knew martial arts, and Pixel got so bad, even James Bond had martial arts. And no, I don't mean Michelle Yeoh and the 90s sanitized version of Bond and all that crap. Of course, I'm talking about, what was it, Live and Let Die? No, not Live and Let Die. The one with the two girls that picks up. It's Man with the Golden Gun. That was, 72, to show you the power of how much. So if something's big and a worldwide phenomenon, it's going to show up in a James Bond film. I mean, or at least it used to. Now, hopefully, there won't be any more Bond films, but that's another subject. Any final thoughts from you, RDV?
Just go watch this movie. But if you're gonna watch any of these movies, you gotta have your chopsticks. You gotta have your
God.
your noodles, and and maybe some ham, some egg. Like you said, these movies because they're eating all these foods that I love. So it's like, dang it, So
I kind of liked that training montage at the beginning where they're going over the different ones, how he's flipping over, and then when he says like noodle, and he goes over and he's over the noodles, like throws some water in there, then he does this or that. I'm like, that's kind of silly, and I get it's kind of campy,
it's
but
very
it matched up. It was
yeah.
kind of cool, right? I want to see that. If you're gonna do it, give me that.
Yeah, he actually was cooking something and he burned it. He has to scrape it out.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That other Jackie Chan's movie of cooks and kung fu on Tubi TV. Guys, see you Tuesday night for our summer movie review, where we just talk about some movies we're interested in seeing. Not certainly every single one. We try for some of the more mainstream ones because, hey, let's be honest. Is it going to be a surprise if we bring up Indiana Jones? I don't think so, but there's obviously some other obscure ones that are coming out too, like Lost Voyage of the Demeter or whatever the hell it's called. Trailer looks fantastic. I'm hyped up to talk about that and a bunch of others. RD and I will be tackling that, and we'll see what's going on here next Thursday night. Till then, have a good night. Thanks, guys, for showing up tonight. I'm glad the three of us are back here live on the Xtreme Movie Show. And to everybody watching the chat, thank you for letting people know that we exist on our march to 1,000 subs. The retweets and some of the old catalog I'm noticing starting to pick up, specifically the Twin Peaks. And even say Silo, which is a newer one. Some people are going back and checking out some of those episodes. That's always a joy. We do freeform it here and just kind of superficially talk about everything. We certainly aren't blue-pilled, red-pilled, or black-pilled. We just talk, and that's what we do. That's what makes us extreme. Yeah, so and you guys, of course, are extremists. What's that?
I was going to say, for those watching the replay or even those watching right now, leave a comment down in the comment section. Let us know what movie you think we should cover.
Yeah, I mean, the more engagement, the better, as they always say. But I'm the type of person where I never really ask for it. I just let you guys know that we do appreciate it because we do this as an exercise, like say with Pixel, who doesn't really give a shit about this film. He'll bring up something and say, "Hey, what about this?" And so we just want to talk about it, and we want to do that with everybody else to just do what most people don't do. We don't really want to politicize films here too. We just want to talk about what we liked and did, and as simple as it sounds, that's what we do. All right, guys. Good night. Stay extreme.
Later, Chico.